Yeah, so good evening, guys. So thank you everyone for joining. So today we are going to see about Linux admin introduction. So why we started this class? That's what I'll just start with the brief introduction. So yeah, we'll just today we are going to start with the Hadoop admin course. So we are going to start the course. So because of that, what we are going to do is we are going to see how Linux admin can turn into a Hadoop admin. That's what we are going to see today. So the basics of Hadoop is anyway the Linux. So Hadoop is not something that just comes up. So the entire Hadoop is built on top of Linux only. The mostly industrial system, everyone, they are using Linux for the Hadoop. So the Linux is very efficient for even to work on development. Also, the basic Linux is needed. And also, as an admin, you need to know each and everything in Linux. So that's what we planned this session. And this session is going to be taken by Basil. So it will be in English, and he'll be taking through the each and everything and in that Linux process and why do you need to be admin and what is admin, what they do, what's exactly happening in the day to day, and what is exactly we need to do. So those things will be explained by Basil, and he's very well experienced in IT, around 2.5 years experience, and very passionate person I've ever met in Tamil Bhumi group. So yeah, that's it from my side. I'll just hand over the session to Basil and take care of the session.
Okay, hope you're able to see the screen, right?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to thank Arumugam for giving me an opportunity to take session on this particular topic. So we welcome you all on behalf of Tamil Bhumi, and this is just an introduction, a demo all about Linux. Okay, as we are taking up sessions on live, you can always ping on the chat box or just unmute your mic if you have any queries, and make sure that all your queries are cleared at the same point. Okay, so you can just chat as well. You can just ping me on the chat box if you have any issues with the subject. Okay, so let me just check. Yeah, so hope I'm audible, right? Let me know if there are any issues.
Yeah, sure, Basil. You're audible.
Fine.
Yeah.
Fine, sir.
Okay, nice. Okay, so we'll start. Okay, so this is all about Linux. We as coming to my background, I have been working as Linux admin as well as I was into Linux administration for 2 to 3 months and then moved into Hadoop. I have a total work experience of somewhere around 2.5 years in the same field as Hadoop administrator. Now I'm into development as well. I take up small jobs of Python and then I take up development in Spark. So this is my overall background. Coming to the technology end, I have been working with Hadoop as well as with Spark and basics of Hive and Pig. So this session, the main motive behind the session is to intimate you guys regarding the importance of Linux. As every activity that we do on Hadoop, everything is built on top of Linux. So it is very much necessary for you guys to understand the importance of this particular operating system and why the developers have chosen Linux for Hadoop. So we'll start with the session. Okay. So, okay, before understanding Linux, okay, we need to understand what is an operating system. This particular term, operating system, it's simple. Operating system is nothing but a program which enables the hardware to communicate with the software. Okay. So, what is Linux? Is Linux an operating system? Anybody can. I want.
Yes.
How many of you say that Linux is an operating system?
Linux is operating system.
Okay. So sorry to be blunt. I mean, Linux is not an operating system. Okay, so we need to make this particular thing clear, crystal clear. So Linux is not an operating system. Linux is nothing but a kernel. Okay, it's the name of a kernel. So kernel is just a part of an operating system. So let me be specific and clear on that part before starting the session. Linux is not an operating system. Okay, so Linux is the name of the kernel which was developed by Linus Torvalds. So kernel is completely different aspect, and there are some other elements to compensate. operating system. So Linux is kernel is the most important part in operating system. So the name Linux derived from the name of the developer. So Linux was developed by Linus Torvalds. Okay, so there are n number of components apart from the kernel, that is the compiler. You have a C compiler, you have GUI. So there are n number of things which consist an operating system. So kernel is one among those components. Okay, so what is Linux first of all? So Linux is nothing but a kernel which acts on top. Like kernel is the most important component in the operating system. Okay, so we'll get into little bit of history before understanding the concept. Okay, so there was a person named Richard Stallman. So Richard Stallman was the one who worked with Xerox. Okay, you would have heard of Xerox, right? So he was very much interested in learning. Please stop me at any point if you have any queries, because this is complete. I would be completely unaware if you have any queries. So feel free to raise questions if you have any doubt. Okay, so coming to the history. So there was a person named Richard Stallman. So he initially he worked with the Xerox company. So Xerox was at that point Xerox had a good operating system. So he came up with an idea. I mean, he thought of developing an operating system by his own, and he went and he approached the concerned person of Xerox and he asked regarding the source code. So at that point, source code was not supposed to be shared. So everything was disclosed. I mean, it was licensed. You won't be able to get the source code. So I mean, Richard Stallman was completely disappointed as he was expecting the source code. So he came up with the idea of creating an operating system which would be open source. When I say open source, it doesn't mean that it is free. Open source means you can see the source code. You have the liberty to see the source code. So he came up with an idea of creating an operating system, and he named the operating system as GNU. See, this is the name of the operating system, GNU. GNU is nothing but it's GNU, not Unix. Okay, so the full form of GNU is G stands for GNU, the name itself, N stands for not, and Unix, U stands for Unix. The reason he kept this name was because Unix was a licensed operating system at that point. So he came up with GNU, that is GNU, not Unix, which is free and open source. Okay, so they had all the components except the kernel. So they were falling short of kernel. At that point, Richard Stallman approached Linus Torvalds, and Linus Torvalds had a kernel. The name of the kernel was Linux. So what they did was they combined the kernel along with the subcomponents of GNU, and they made GNU Linux. So when somebody asks you what is Linux, don't intimate them that Linux is an operating system. Linux is just a kernel. So what is an operating system? The name of the operating system is GNU Linux. GNU in the sense all the components apart from the kernel, and Linux is the kernel. Am I clear on that part? Please feel free to raise questions if you have any.
Yeah. So I just have one question, Basil. So what is the like Windows also should be having some kernel, right?
Yeah, Windows is having kernel.
Okay, but it is an operating system.
It's an operating system.
Okay.
Windows is having a kernel, and Windows has other components as well, right?
Okay, yeah, okay, but Linux is just kernel.
Linux is just a kernel. You have other components like compiler, and then you have the user interface. So there are n number of components apart from the kernel.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
Fine?
Yeah.
Okay. So moving forward. Okay. So what is Linux? So Linux is a generic term referring to Unix, like graphical user interface based on computer operating system. Okay. So this is just an understanding of Linux. Next, coming to the advantages. Before getting into the core of Linux, we need to understand the advantages of Linux. What is the advantage of using Linux operating system? Okay, so as I intimated you prior, that Linux is an open source operating system. What do we mean by open source? Anybody? What do you mean by an open source operating system?
No need the license.
No need of
No need
license.
pay
Okay.
to, yeah.
Correct. No need of license. So I'll just explain it a bit clearly. So what could you just unmute your could you just mute your mic, friend? Okay. So what do we mean by that? When I say we don't need license, that means we have the liberty to play around with the operating system. Okay. So when it comes to Windows, you don't have the liberty to play around with the operating system because Linux comes with uh, restrictions in the sense you are not supposed to get into some directories, or they have created in that such a way that it is very difficult for a person to play around with the operating system. But when it comes to Linux, you can see the source code and you can change it according to your requirement. So that is the way, that is a very good advantage when it comes to Linux, because you have the liberty to change the code according. You can create a customization of your own Linux. That is nothing but a distribution. Okay, what is a distribution? Distribution in the sense, companies from different arena could create their own distribution from the Linux kernel. So there are n number of distributions that have listed here. So we have Ubuntu, PC Linux OS, Fedora, CentOS, OpenSUSE, Debian, FreeBSD, Linux Mint. So there are n number of distributions for Linux, and people keep on. Developers keep on creating distributions according to their need. So you can also create your own Linux. I mean, if you are good with, if you have a requirement, you can create your own Linux and you can work accordingly. So we would be working from CentOS perspective. So we are using CentOS. If you get into companies, most of the companies would be using CentOS distribution of Linux. Uh, Ubuntu is mainly used for demonstration purpose, but when you get into companies, you would be forced to get into CentOS. And coming to the distributions, there would be a slight difference in commands, but most of the commands would remain the same. The update command and some other basic commands would differ according to the distribution, but most of the distributions would be having the same command line. Okay, yes. Okay, so coming to Red Hat, so Fedora and CentOS are products for Red Hat distribution. So you would have heard of Red Hat. So two competitors for Linux distribution is Red Hat and Debian. So Debian is having Ubuntu as the flavor, and Red Hat is having CentOS. So CentOS is nothing but a flavor of Red Hat distribution. Am I clear with that part? I mean, distributions and open source. Do you have any queries till this point?
So all Linux, all open source should not be freeware, right?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
All open source should not be the freeware, right?
Yeah, it is absolutely free. All the distributions are free.
No, all distributions I understand, but all the open source, entire open source is free, or there could be something as for commercial.
Commercial, yeah, you have commercial thing. Okay, when it comes to Red Hat, the Red Hat distribution is free, but you will have to pay for support. Support in the sense, if you get into some problem, you will have to pay for support. I mean, you have to
Okay.
pay, and Red Hat will solve the issue. But the distribution is completely free.
Okay. Yeah, got it.
Right? Okay. So moving forward. Secure. Okay, so Linux is completely secure compared to Windows, because you would have you can just Google it. You will find that most of the servers are Linux-based servers, as it is efficient and secure. Companies tend to use Linux compared to Windows. Now, the reason why it is secured is because of its shell. You have a shell which protects the let's say vulnerability. If there is a vulnerability, you have a shell, and it is very difficult for the attacker to bypass the shell and get into the operating system level, because it is in each and every operation you are expected to put a sudo command. Sudo is nothing but super user do. So you are expected to put a sudo for every operation, and there are other security levels as well. So it is very difficult to bypass the Linux shell and get into the computer. So compared to other operating systems, Linux is completely secure. So that is the reason companies are opting for Linux servers uh, compared to Windows. Fine. Are we clear on this part? Security. Okay. So I hope we are clear with this part moving forward. Cheaper, as we had discussed earlier, Linux is cheaper. Reason because it is open source and you don't have to pay for Linux distribution. You can download the ISO image for free. Whereas in Windows, you are expected to pay amount and get a licensed version, and you will have to renew it further. So in Linux, you don't have that pain of paying. You can just download the ISO and you can work directly. And there is no such restrictions as well. Okay, so you have a GPL, that is General Public License for Linux, wherein the user, what is expected from a Linux user. Okay, the expected thing is you are expected to download it, customize it, and share your code. Okay, so that is the main, I would say, the motive behind Linux. So Linux is nothing but sharing your code. You are expected to share your code to the society. So what happens is when you share the code to the society, they will make that improvise. They will make that change to the operating system. So it's all about a community. So Linux was not. I mean, the first important thing that I would like to make crystal clear here is Linux was not developed by Linus Torvalds alone. Okay, there was a whole community working behind Linux. So when I say community, there are n number of people from different part of world working on Linux kernel, and still they are working because there are n number of customization happening, and it's not job of one guy. It's a community that is working completely from different background. Okay, so it's a whole community working for this particular operating system. So if you are willing to work, you can approach. I mean, there is a particular site wherein you can log in and you can contribute to the community. If you are willing, you can customize your Linux kernel and you can contribute to the community. If that suits the requirement, they would be taking up your change and they would be deploying it on the Linux kernel. So that is how the whole thing works. Okay. So am I clear on that part?
Hey, Basil, like one quick question based on this one. You're saying it's cheaper, right? But
Correct.
why it's not commercialized much? Like I'm not talking about server, okay? Let look about all our laptops, right? Everything is commercialized on Windows, right? Why the Linux, not Linux, like GNU is not come into picture for commercializing for like everybody? Means not at the laptop level, like.
Okay, so let me be clear on that part. So we need to understand the open source thing first. Okay. So open source means what is the main motive of the community? The main motive of the community that everybody should contribute to the kernel. Okay, so there is a kernel and people from the world is contributing to the kernel. When I say contributing, they are adding their value. Now when you ask question like what do they get from doing that, they are doing that absolutely for free, correct? So they don't get anything out of that, so they are doing that for free. They are just doing out of their interest. So let's say we have a group of 10 people. Okay, so we are willing to do something on the kernel. Okay, so if the particular thing is commercialized, okay, let's say the Linux operating system is commercialized, then what happens is there's a barrier. I mean, people won't be able to contribute. So the main motive of this particular operating system is contribution from everybody. So if people want to contribute, they want this particular operating system to be open source. If you license or if you commercialize this particular thing, then the contribution, you are putting a dead end to contribution. And that would obviously affect the kernel. I mean, affect the operating system, because this operating system is, I mean, if you take Windows is completely developed by community of Microsoft. So here you don't have any such community. Let's say I work from India, I am willing to do some development on the kernel, I can do it. I mean, those who are people come in out of interest. There is no such community or no group. People anywhere from the world is contributing only because it is not commercialized. Am I clear?
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Fine. So this is the main advantage of Linux. As it is open source, people have the liberty to contribute to the kernel. Okay, and still they are working, and still changes have been made I mean, clients should be requesting changes, and there are developers, n number of developers sitting all around the world and contributing the particular change. Okay. Moving forward, hierarchy. Okay. So hierarchy in the sense, in Windows you have drives, right? Okay. So here we need to understand the way how Linux architecture. Okay. So this is all about architecture. Architecture in the sense, everything starts from the root directory. So there is just one root directory on top. Okay, that is a / anything. I'm going to use that. So anything you create on Linux would be created under this root directory. Okay, so there are folders like bin, opt, boot. So these are all system generated folders. I'm sorry. Okay, so you have a home folder right here. Okay, the moment you create a user in this particular operating system, what happens is you would be having a folder with your name, okay, inside the home directory, and all your folders and files would be residing inside your home directory. So that is the advantage in home. This is completely centralized. I mean, you can easily, I mean, it is very much important for you guys to understand the architecture before getting inside the core Linux. Okay, so it is very much important. We'll go through the thing in demo. This is just for your understanding. We'll get into demo and we'll understand how things work. So everything starts from root, and thereon you have home. Inside home, let's say you have 10 users, you would be having 10 folders of different users, and all the respective files and folders of those users would be residing inside the respective user folder. Okay, so there are other folders as well. We'll discuss in detail. This is just for your understanding. Okay. Okay, next question. Why should you learn Linux? Okay, so it's all about Linux, like it's free and all those things. So what is the point of learning Linux? So I have given some basics, like just to make you understand the importance of Linux. So every time you use Google or Facebook, I mean, they are communicating with servers which is running on Linux. And if you use Android phone, again, it is another flavor of Linux. So Linux is everywhere. I mean, smartphones, watches. You have Linux inside the hood of your car as well. So there are I mean, there are most of the electronic devices are getting into Linux. Okay, so Linux servers are being used in worldwide. Fine. Now coming to our perspective, okay, so I got to know that many of them are aspiring to get into Hadoop administration. Okay, so let me just make you understand that if we have a number of distributions in Hadoop as well. Okay, so the distributions are Cloudera. Okay, you would have heard of Cloudera. Many of you would have heard of Cloudera, Hortonworks, MapR. So there are n number of distributions of Hadoop. Now this might wonder that the distributions, the distribution that is Cloudera and Hortonworks are working on CentOS. Okay, so they have CentOS installed on Cloudera. Same goes with Hortonworks. They have CentOS installed on Hortonworks, and they do their operations on CentOS, which is nothing but a flavor of Linux. Okay, so if you get into a company, you are expected to work on CentOS, which is, I mean, when you're working on Cloudera, that means you're working on CentOS. It's as simple as that. So you are expected to work on the command line interface. So it is very much important for you guys to understand the importance of Linux and then getting to know about the command. I mean, you won't be working on the GUI level. There is no graphical user interface for our session. Okay, we will be having sessions on command prompt. Like everything is done from the command prompt. So we won't be using distribution for time being. So we will be working on Linux, I mean on CentOS, and we'll be downloading that Apache tarball, Hadoop tarball from Apache site, and we'll be doing everything from the scratch. So when it comes to distribution, they would be everything is pre-installed. You don't have to take the pain of installation because everything is pre-installed. So you just have to, just work on Linux, work on Hadoop. What is the advantage? So let me just explain you the advantage of working from the scratch. Okay, so when you work from the scratch, you get to know things better. So that is the main motive behind the course. So when you work from the scratch, you don't have those GUIs or those buttons. Everything needs to be done from command prompt. So the initial session for Hadoop administration would be on Linux. So we'll go through some basic commands which are required for Linux. and will understand Linux. Because ultimately, if you're not good with your command, then it would be very difficult for you to get into Hadoop administration. Am I clear on that part?
Yeah.
Okay. Feel free to raise your queries if you have any. Okay. Next. So, role of a system administrator. So here I have just mentioned the role of Linux administrator. Okay. So Linux administrator. Yeah.
So one quick question. So Abhijit asked, like, what level of Linux expertise required for the admin? Which admin? Hadoop admin or Linux admin?
This is about Hadoop, Linux administration.
Okay. Now the question is, what level of Linux expertise need for admin? Hadoop admin. Sorry, Hadoop admin. How much he should know about Linux?
Yeah, I will come to that. Okay. So the first thing about Linux is you should be good with your file commands. There are file handling commands. There is text processing commands. You have administration commands. So I have listed all those commands after this slide. So we'll get into that. So this is just an overview idea of Linux administrator. I'll come to your question. I'll answer it as we have those slides behind this. Okay. So we'll get to that question. So this is just an idea about the role of a system administrator. Okay, that is a Linux administrator. These are some basic jobs which you would have heard of. Okay, so it is all about managing internet applications like DNS, Radius, Apache, MySQL, installation of MySQL, PHP. You're expected to work on PHP as well. I mean, just on the installation part. Okay, coming to backup of data, administrator is responsible for taking a backup. If there is any loss in data, the administrator would be held responsible. Okay, then you have scheduled duties. The main job of an administrator, to be frank, okay, the main job of an administrator is automation. Okay, what do I mean by automation? Automation in the sense bash scripting. Many of you would have heard of bash scripting. Okay, bash scripting is nothing but, let's say you have 3 to 4 jobs which are expected to run on a daily basis. Okay, so as a system administrator, as a Linux administrator, you are expected to write scripts. Okay, you write scripts, and what you do is you run the script every day. You won't be doing those tedious jobs every day. So as a Linux administrator, you should be in a position to automate your task. Okay, so you should be in a position to automate your task so that you should not be doing all the jobs. You write the list of jobs that you're expected to do. You write a for loop, like for I equals to 0, you give the condition and run those jobs on a daily basis. So you have a cron tab. So I guess many of you would have heard of cron tab. So cron tab is nothing but writing down your jobs on a hourly basis, hourly minute basis, on which day you are expected to do a job. So there are n number of scripts which you can run on Linux level to get your job done. Fine. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Moving forward, coming to commands, as we had discussed just a second prior. One second. 30. Okay, so we had discussed just a second prior regarding the commands. So these are some file handling commands. Okay, so we have I have just segregated into different commands. So we have other commands as well. So as a PPT presentation, I couldn't list down all the commands. So we'll get into that in detail. Okay, so this is just for your understanding. So we have file handling, text processing, process management, system administration, archival, and file systems. Okay. So we'll get in a small, after this PPT presentation, we have a demo. We'll get into demo and we'll get to know about the commands and the hierarchy of Linux. This is just for our understanding. Okay. So file handling commands in the sense listing the directories, changing directories in the sense getting inside a directory, making a directory, deleting a directory. Okay. So these are just basic commands for file handling. Then again, PWD, that is present working directory. As we stated earlier, everything is command line interface, so you won't be knowing where you are residing. Like when you get into a directory, for the proper understanding of your location, you need to type PWD, that is present working directory, which will intimate you the current location. Vim, that is in text editor, and CP copy, MB is move. Text processing, so cat is nothing but concatenate. You can use cat to view to concatenate text. Echo is used for printing a particular text. system administration, ch mode and ch1. Ch mode is nothing but changing the mode of a particular file folder. Ch1 is changing the owner of a particular file or folder. Okay. So we'll get into the commands. For time being, do you have any questions till this point? So far we have discussed about the Linux architecture basics and just a demo. So far, if you have any queries, feel free to raise it. Okay, if you, regarding the topic, then we'll get into the demo and we'll get to know about the commands.
I just have one common question. Everybody has: is Linux hard to learn?
Linux is, there is a misconception wherein people get into a wrong impression that everything is command line. You don't have that GUI thing, right? So people get under a wrong impression that it would be a difficult thing. But to be frank, as working in this particular environment for past 2 years, I got to know that this particular thing is very easy. You don't have to stress yourself for the command thing. If you understand things clearly, okay, what is the use of CD or MKD, it would be a cakewalk for you guys to learn things. So as a personal, as my personal experience states, I didn't find Linux hard as it is. It said, when people have a misconception stating that you don't get the liberty of using GUI, right? So they get under the wrong impression and they come up with a conclusion that it is hard to learn. But personally, I don't I find it very much interesting, and I hope you would be sharing the same wavelength.
Okay, that's great. And one more question I had. It's not a question; it's a common question. Like in Windows, we feel we don't have much control. So, but Linux, we have much control, but it's kind of different. So, as I think you should have used both. So, what is the difference in terms of administrative way? Linux versus
administrative. Okay, so as the question states, you have the liberty. Okay, liberty in the sense you will get to know about the operating system completely. I mean, if you have a sudo, there are 3 different types of users in Linux. Okay, so let me first make you understand that part. So we have a root user. Okay, root user is considered as a super user who is having the liberty to do anything on that system. Okay, anything in the sense you can delete the boot directory as well. Boot directory is the one where you have a grub boot which loads each and every time. So no user is supposed to delete that grub boot folder, but as a root user, you can do anything on that particular system. Okay, second one is administrator. Administrator is the one who can do the same level of operation as a root user with the help of sudo command, that is super user do. And third one is the standard user, and standard user is having some limitations. Standard user is not supposed to do all the operations compared to root user. I mean, he is having limitations as in deleting the folder. He'll have to approach the administrator to do the system level operations. So coming to the Windows background, in Windows you don't have that liberty as root user. I mean, you have n number of restrictions. You won't be able to get into the bin directory or grub directory. You won't be able to see that. Okay, so the n number of restrictions when it comes to Windows. In Linux, if you assign as a root user, you can do anything on the operating system, to be frank.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, hope I'm clear with that part. Okay, so now we'll move into the demo. Okay, demonstration. Just a second. Okay, so I'm using Windows system wherein I have installed, I have cloned CentOS. Okay, so I have cloned CentOS in my VirtualBox. So I'll get in. So you can see I have cloned 4 clones of CentOS. We had discussed just a, I'm sorry. Okay, we had discussed just a minute prior regarding the distributions. So CentOS is a product of Red Hat. So and I have Cloudera VM installed as well. Cloudera VM is nothing but a distribution of Hadoop. Okay, so indirectly Cloudera uses CentOS. So we will be doing all our demos on CentOS. So here, this CentOS, I recommend you to install minimal version of CentOS. So there are 3 different versions of CentOS. So we have a minimal version, we have one with GUI, and we have everything version. So I have installed 4 minimal versions of CentOS and 1 with GUI. Okay, just to make you guys understand. So this CentOS 1 is minimal version of CentOS. I'll just show you the page, the prompt of minimal version of CentOS. So this is the minimal version of CentOS. So we need to just click on the code, which is the kernel. So kernel is booting on the background. So it would take hardly 2 to 3 minutes to load. So it is booting on the background. It's CentOS Linux 7. So here you don't have GUI. It is completely command prompt. So here everything is command prompt. This is the minimal version of CentOS. So I enter the username and I enter the password. Boom, you are inside the command prompt. So you don't have GUI in this particular scenario. So everything is command prompt. You are expected to type the commands and work. So we would be using this particular flavor of Linux in our sessions as well. So I have downloaded the GUI version of CentOS as well. I'll just switch on the GUI. So this is the GUI version of CentOS. So the only difference with both this clone is you would be having a GUI for this particular CentOS, whereas you won't be having a GUI in this scenario. Everything would be command prompt. If you want to download a particular file, you will have to enter the command and download it. Whereas in GUI, you have the liberty to go to that particular website, click and download. So that is the only difference. So this makes things a bit easier, but I would recommend you to go with minimal version. This is just for your understanding. Okay, so this is the GUI version. So I'll just log in. So this would take a bit longer time compared to the minimal version as the GUI needs to load. Okay. So this is GUI CentOS 7, the same version. So here you have a wonderful GUI and all the applications you can drag and drop. You have the liberty of you'd be familiar with this particular thing. So you have all the options like Windows. Okay. So it would be easier compared to the menu. So you can open terminal by right click and then you can click on open terminal. So this is a terminal. So this would be a bit slow compared to the minimal version as you have GUI installed. Okay. So we'll just close this particular thing. So hope you're clear with the difference between minimal and GUI. So I have switched off this machine. Okay. Now coming to this particular thing. So I recommend you guys to install the minimal version of CentOS. Okay. So we'll get into some basics of Linux. Okay. So we had seen some commands relating to file processing, text processing, and administration. So we'll get into basics first. Okay. So before we get into basics, make sure, so this is completely practical thing. Okay. So feel free to stop me at any point if you're not understanding. Okay. Okay. I'll just maximize this. Fine. So right now, the first thing that I would like you guys to understand here is you can see Hadoop 1 here. Okay. So Hadoop 1 is nothing but the name of the user. Okay. So Hadoop 1 is the name of the user at the rate localhost, in the sense the host name. So first one is the name of the user and second one is the host name. And you can see a tilde sign right here. So tilde is the location where the user is residing. Okay. Location in the sense, as I stated earlier, every user would be having its own home location. So Hadoop 1 would be residing inside home Hadoop 1. I'll just demonstrate that by typing pwd. Pwd is present working directory. So when I hit enter, I could see a home directory, that is home/Hadoop1. You can see it clear. So it's home Hadoop1. So any user you create, let's say I create a test user. Okay, what would happen if I create a test user? Obviously, it would be created inside the home directory. So I would be having home test user 1. If I create test user 2, then it would be home test user 2. So every user would be having a separate directory, and all the files and folders are segregated into that particular respective folder. Okay. Hope I'm clear with that part. Okay, now coming to the architecture. Okay, so everything starts from root directory. So we'll get into root directory first. So cd is nothing but change directory. Okay, change directory, and I get into root/intimates root directory. So I hit enter. Now you can see that the tilde has been changed to root here. That means I have got into the root area. Okay, so when I do a ls, you could see all the folders that I had listed in the PPT. That is bin, boot, dev, etc, home, lib64. So these are all system generated folders. Okay, these are all system generated folders. You have a bin and sbin. Bin and sbin would be consisting of script files, which is required for the operating system. Okay, so now coming to the home directory. So we are concerned with the home directory because the user would be existing inside the home directory. So I get it to home, that is cd. As I'm residing inside the root directory, I can just always confirm using pwd. So I can see that I'm residing inside root. The moment I get inside home, it would be /home. Okay, so now I'm inside home. Now I type pwd. It's /home. And if I do a ls here, that is listing what is residing inside the directory, I could see Hadoop 1 folder for sure, because I don't have any other user apart from Hadoop. We can see right here that I have Hadoop 1 folder. Okay, so when I get inside Hadoop 1, I could see all the folders and files for that particular user, and all the folders and files would be named as Hadoop for sure. So I can just demonstrate that as well. ls-l, that is listing all. Okay, so ls-l would show me that all the files and folders except the new file. Okay, new file was created by root user. Except new file, all the folders are, the folders are owned by Hadoop 1. Okay, so the first one is the name of the user that owns the particular directory, and the second one is the group name. Okay, so you have a user and you have a group name. We'll do that with the root location. So I'll go to root location and I hit enter, and I do a ls-l. Obviously all the files and folders residing inside this particular location would be owned by can you guys tell me who would be the owner of all the files residing inside the root location?
Root.
Obviously all the files and folders residing inside this particular location would be owned by root. Okay, so you can understand this clearly. The moment I get inside home, okay, so I get inside home, I do a ls-l. So from this particular location, it is taken over by Hadoop 1. Okay, till that location, all the files and folders are owned by root. The moment I get into home, the file and folder is taken over by Hadoop 1. So the main thing to understand here is root user can do anything with files and folders. Okay, root user is having the liberty to do anything with files and folders. When I say anything, root user can delete this particular folder, Hadoop 1. But Hadoop 1 cannot delete the folders residing inside root, because that is owned by root. As I stated earlier, root user is having the liberty to operating system. So hope you guys are clear with the hierarchy. Now we'll get inside the user and we'll just get into some basic commands. Okay, so what is the first command? The first command is creating a directory. So it is mkdir, make directory, and then the name of the directory. So I write as test1. So test1 is the directory that I create. Okay, So icon is created right here. Okay, so getting inside test1, if you want to get inside a directory, you can type cd and then test1. So you are inside test1. I type pwd. Could anybody tell me the absolute path from root location? Anyone? What would be the absolute path from root location? Not the relative one, the absolute path from root location. Anybody? The absolute path for test1 from root location. Simple, right? So everything will start from root, and then root you will be having a home folder, then Hadoop one, test one. Okay, it's as simple as that. Now I am inside test one. How will I get to know where am I? So I'll do a pwd to confirm the location. So I get to know that I'm inside test one. Okay. Next one. You have the liberty to create files as well, right? So coming to files. So touch command is used for creating a file. So I type file1. Okay. So this would be a blank text file. Okay. So this is a blank text file. How to confirm this file or folder? So I create another file folder named as file mkdir folder. So if I do ls, you can easily differentiate. The one with blue one is the folder and white one is a file. Okay, so you need to identify here on the basis of color. Okay, now this will vary from distribution. If you get into Ubuntu, it won't be the same color. Okay, so make yourself clear. This is just for CentOS. If you get into different distribution, the colors might vary. So this is system configuration customization. Okay, so they have customized blue color for folder and white color for file. Okay, so easily you can identify. The other way of identifying is just do a ls-l. Okay, so the one with this particular hyphen in front would be a file, and the one with d in front, d stands for directory and hyphen stands for a file. Okay, so you can differentiate in this way as well. The one with hyphen in the front would be a file, and the second one, a d in front of the particular permission, would be a directory. Okay, this is a listing. I have file and folder. Now next command is about text processing. So how to process a text? So the first command is cat, that is concatenate file1. Okay, so cat file1 is used to view the contents of particular file. So you guys would be knowing that very well, that file1 is empty for sure. So if I do a cat file1, I won't be seeing anything inside file1 as the file is empty. So I hit enter. I don't see anything as the file is empty. Okay, so what I do is I'll add some contents into file1 and we'll see the difference. Okay, so we use text editors for adding content inside file. Okay, so the text editor we would be using is Vim, that is Vim Improve. So this is a text editor. You have other text editors as well. We have Nano text editor in Ubuntu, and you have gedit. So we and most of the companies are using Vim. So I just want you guys to understand this. Vim is not that easy compared to other text editor. It is a bit difficult as the commands would differ. Okay, so we'll get to know about Vim. So this is just for understanding. So we have Vim text editor, and then the name of the file that you want to edit. So it is file1. I hit enter. So what happens is I would be redirected directly inside the page. So now I'm inside the page of file1. So I can write the contents that I need to print. Okay, so you need to press I for insert mode. You cannot just like that write in Vim. You need to press I. You will get into a insert mode, and now you can write your content. So I write the content as hello everyone. So I wrote the content hello everyone. After writing the content, you need to press escape command and then a colon W. I'll just show you right here. You can see W here, okay? W and Q. okay, for saving the changes, and put exclamatory mark on the end. Okay, so WQ and exclamation. I hit enter. So now you can see the file has been written. Okay, now I do ls. Now if I do, now when I do a cat command for file 1, I could see the contents that I have written inside file 1. See, I can view the contents written inside file 1. Okay, so this is how you write the contents inside file. Okay, so there are other features for cat as well. Okay, the other features I'm not getting into all the commands as we have limitation of time, so I'll just make you understand the importance of cat command. Okay, so let's say I want to replicate this particular file to another file. Okay, so what I do is we have a concept.
Just a minute.
Yeah,
And in that file one is which extension is which extension is
all
how
the
to say
we don't have the
file
concept.
one which
Correct.
extension
No, I'll come to that. We don't have the
this one
concept of
dot text file or anything else.
correct .text file. We don't have the concept of extension here. In Windows, we have Word file, we have Excel file. We don't have the concept of extension. All the files are text extension files. That is txt.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we have the concept of replicating the data. Let's say you want to replicate. Let's say you want to replicate the contents of file 1 to a new file. Okay. So we have the concept of replication. So you can do easily with cat command. Okay. Let me demonstrate that particular thing. Let's say I want to replicate the contents, that is hello everyone, to a new file named as file 2. So what I do is I type cat, okay, file 1. I put a redirection operator. Redirection operator means copy all the contents of file 1, okay, to which file? To file 2. So what happens is all the contents residing inside file 1 would be copied to file 2. We don't, the main idea, the crux here is you don't have file 2 residing in this particular location. Okay, make that clear. You don't have file 2 residing in this location. So what happens is it will first create file 2 in this location, and then it would copy all the contents of file 1 into file 2. Okay, so what will happen on the background? First it will create file 2 in this location, and then it will copy all the contents residing inside file 1 into file 2. Okay, so let's see what happens. I hit enter. I see ls. I could see file 2 residing in this location. Okay, so now I do cat file 1. I could see hello everyone, and I do file 2. I could see hello everyone. Okay, so what happened? It created file 2, and then it copied all the contents of file 1 into file 2. And there are other sub options for cat as well. Okay, as we are restricted with time, we will deal that in detail later. Okay, next, echo command. Echo command is used for printing something on screen. Okay, so echo hello everyone. So what happens? It will print hello everyone. So I could change the statement hello all. Hello all. You can redirect echo output as well. Okay, so I'll redirect the echo output. So hello all. I redirect it to a new file. So file 3. So what will happen? It will create file 3, and it would copy the content, that is hello all, into file 3. Okay. So now I do ls. I could see file 3 right here. So if I do a cat of file 3, I could see hello all. Hope I'm making sense, guys. Please feel free to raise your queries if you have any. Make sure that you're understanding. I need to make sure we are all on the same page. Okay, feel free to raise your queries. Are you all clear till this part?
Yes, President. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Now coming to system administration commands. Okay, so system administration in the sense you have the liberty to change the permission of files and folders. Okay, that is a very crucial part. Okay, you can change the permission of a file or folder. Same could be done for the owner as well. You could change the owner as well. Okay, so that could only be done provided you are root. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll switch to root user. Okay. So we have two users right here. One is root user and second is Hadoop one, which is administrator. So let's say if I create a new user, obviously the third user would be a standard user, and henceforth all the user after the administrator would be standard users. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll switch to root user. When I get into root user, I have the liberty to do anything on the computer. Okay. So make sure if you're getting into root user, make sure any operation you do, think twice before doing that operation. Okay, because you will end up ruining the whole operating system if you are not aware about system commands. Okay, if you're switching on to root user, make sure you think twice before executing an operation. Okay, so I'll switch to root user. SU is for switching user. Okay, SU is switch user to root. Okay, so what will happen is the moment I switch user to root, it would be root@localhost. So now it is root@localhost. Okay. So now I have the liberty. I can do anything on the computer as I am the super user of the operating system. So in companies, the administrator would only be having the root access. No developers won't be having root access. Okay. So you as an administrator is responsible for the operation. The company has given you the liberty to do anything on the operating system. Okay. Developers and other colleagues of yours won't be having root. Okay. So you are assigned to give permission for other users. Okay, so now we'll just change the permissions. We'll understand the permission. Okay, Arugan, do you mind stretching for another 10 minutes? It's already 9. Hello. Okay, so I will stretch for another 10 minutes. Fine? Fine with you guys, right?
Yes, sure.
Okay. So we'll just get to know the permission thing. Fine. So now I'll do a ls-l. Okay. So I can see that all the folders and files are owned by Hadoop and root. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll first change the mode of the particular operation. Changing the mode of the particular operation in the sense, we need to understand this particular thing first. Okay. We'll get from the desktop level. Okay. So right here we have read, write, and execute. Okay. So this is R stands for read, write stands for write, W stands for write, and X stands for execute. Okay, so we have RWX, and then we have R, a hyphen, and X. Hyphen is the write permission is disabled for this particular stage. Here you have read, and you have a hyphen, which means write is not given to that particular user, and you have execute. Now we'll segregate this particular thing. So this RWX is for user of desktop, that is Hadoop one. Okay, R-X is for the group is again Hadoop one. Okay, so there is no write permission for the group. Okay, so n number of users can form a group. So giving a permission to a group indirectly means giving permission to all users. Okay, and then we have R. Oh, just a second, hang on for a second, guys. Okay, so we have read, write, and execute. Okay, so we'll try. We'll understand this thing first. Okay, before getting into the subject. Okay, just a second, please. So if there's a read, there's a write, and then you have execute. Okay, so these are all the modes of operation. Okay, it's read, write, and execute, and everything comes with a number. So there's a number specified for each mode of operation. So 4 is for read, and then 2 is for write, and 1 is for execute. Okay, so it's 4 to 1 concept. Okay, so you have a total of 7. Okay, which is read, write, and execute. If you want to give a user read permission, then you'll have to go with 4. If you want to give write, then 2. If you want to give execute, it is 1. If you're willing to give all the permissions to the user, then you need to go with 7. Okay, we'll see that particular thing. Okay. So could you guys tell me what is the permission number for desktop? What is the permission number for desktop? Anybody? Hello?
731.
Sorry?
731. 7 for Hadoop, 3 for group, and 1 for others.
731. Okay.
755 for desktop. 755.
Correct. So this is 755. Okay, I'll make that clear. So 4, 5, 6, 7. That is 4 for read, 2 for write, 1 for execute. That is 7, and then 4 and 1. That is 5. Okay, because read is 4 and execute is 1, so 5. And then again for others it is 7 plus 1. 4 plus 1. That is 5. Okay, I'll demonstrate that. We'll make that clear. Okay, so now I'm going to remove all the permissions from desktop. Okay, so chmod 000 for desktop. Plus -L. Now you can see all the permissions have been removed from desktop. Okay, now let's say I want to give 7 permissions. 7. Okay, that is read, write, and execute for user. You need to be specific here. You cannot just like that write 7. 7 for what? 7 for user, group, or others. So if it is user, then make sure that you give 7 for user. Okay, so we'll go with that. So chmod. Okay, 7, because I need to give read, write, and execute for the user, and I write 700. Okay, 700 in the sense 00 for others and group for desktop. So you can see read, write, and execute permission for desktop. Okay, so let's say now I need to give only read permission for group. Okay, so it is chmod 7 all permissions. And what is the permission for read? What is the permission for read? Let's say I want to give read permission to group. What would be the number? Only for group.
4.
4. Okay, so 740, right? Because I need to give read permission for group and no permission for others. Okay, so desktop ls-l. So you can see only read permission is given to the group. So this is how next we'll see about write permission. Okay, so I'll remove the read permission from group and I'll give only write permission for group. Okay, Abhijit, you have any query?
No, I'm good.
Okay, so we'll see how to remove the read permission and we'll give a write permission for group. Okay, so chmod 7. Okay, write permission is, what is the write permission?
2.
2. Okay, 720 for desktop. So you can see that the read permission has been disabled and the write permission has been enabled. Okay, now we'll make things a little bit more easier. Okay, so chmod, let's say I give 444 for desktop, which means I'm giving read permission for all the users. ls-l, see, read. Okay, now we'll go with write. Okay, so chmod 222, that is write permission for all the users. You can see write. Okay, now we'll go with execute. Execute is nothing but 111. Is execute. If you want to give all the permissions to user, you can go with 777. That is all for user, all for group, and all for others. Read, write, execute. Hope I'm clear with this particular thing. chmod. Okay, this is very important when it comes to, this is a part of Hadoop Linux administrator's job. Okay, now coming to changing the owner of that particular folder. Okay, so let's say I want to change the owner. Now the folder desktop is owned by Hadoop 1, and the group of the particular folder is Hadoop 1. So I'm going to change Hadoop 1 to root. Okay, so the operation is chown. Chown means change owner. Okay, change owner, and write the name of the owner that you want to assign. So I write it as root. Okay, so root means the name of the user that the folder owns, colon, and again I write root, which means the group that owns the particular folder. So this one is for the user, and second one is for the group that owns the particular folder. Okay, right, desktop. Now you can see the owner permissions have been changed. Now it is root owner and root group for desktop. Okay, so these were some basics of Linux. We are running out of time. I thought of demonstrating other some commands for the process as well. So we'll do that later. Fine. So hope you guys have understood the commands. If you have any queries, please feel free to raise it. Hope I am clear till this point. Is it okay? How to create group, Sanjay? Okay. What about others? Ramesh Kumar. Ramesh, could you just write down? You might be knowing, right? What is the command for creating a group? Ramesh Kumar had answered Sanjay. Like, what is the command for creating user? What is the command for creating group? Ramesh Kumar.
Yeah, group add and group name. Group add command and following group name.
Correct. Group add command and following group name. So group add would create. Group add is the command for group for adding a group and the name of the group that you add. Okay. So cat. 1 second. So you have a file named as group right here. So what happens is the moment you add a group, the group would be added in this particular location. Okay. So the moment you add a user, the user would also be added in this particular location. I'll just demonstrate that thing as well. Okay. So I'll create a user. Okay. So user add, I write test1. So what will happen? The user is added, right? So now I do etc group. So you can see here that the user is added right here. Okay. So the moment you create a user, everything is added into this particular location. Okay. So cd etc. In etc, you have a file named as group. Okay. So all the entries that you make would be added into this particular file. Okay. This is a system generated file. How to assign a particular user to a group. Okay. So Sanjay will get in detail for time. For time being, we are running out of time. Okay. So we'll get into that in detail. For sure, your queries will be clear. Okay. So we'll get into that in detail, how to add a user, how to add a group, how to assign a user to a group. All these questions should be clear. Okay. I'm really sorry because we were expected to close the session by 9. We'll take up your queries for sure, and we'll answer that. So far, everything is good. Do you have any queries till this end? Good. Okay. Okay, fine. So hope I'm clear till this part. I'm fine. So let me know if you have any queries. Hope you have my mobile number. Okay, you can post all your queries into the group. I'll be looking through the queries and I'll be answering all the queries, and I'll make sure that no questions goes unanswered. Okay, all your questions should be answered. I'm really sorry. For time being, I won't be able to take up more queries as we are running out of time. So you can post all your queries on the group. We'll take up all the queries and we'll make sure all the questions are answered. And thanks a lot for your patience. Okay, I appreciate that. We'll looking forward for next session. Okay, let us know if you have any queries for this session. Make sure you post all your queries on the group. Okay, so we're all good.
Yeah. Yes, boss.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, boss, for the excellent session.
Thank you.
Yeah. If you are not in the group, you can just find the description. We have a group, like in the video description, we'll be having the group link so that you can join the group. And from next week, 4th onwards, we are going to start the Hadoop admin class. So if you wanted to join, you can join the class. So thank you. Thanks everyone for joining the session. Thanks. We'll meet in the next session.
So what time next week?
Next week, it is 4th of August, we are going to start the session. And
Okay.
that will be 7 to 9 night daily, like weekend. 7 to 9.
Okay. Okay. Anyway, you can keep the updates, right, in the group.
Yeah,
Right?
in the group, we will be posting the update.
Okay. Fine. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah. Thank you. You can post your feedbacks also in the group. You can discuss if you find anything useful or if you find anything interesting or any of your questions. You can post in our admin group so that we'll have a conversation going. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks everyone.